I remember I did an event in Bellevue. This is my very first gig that my brother helped get me set up with. I remember going there and I was so excited, but when I got there and I was setting up, I almost got sick. I had butterflies in my stomach because at that time I was super shy. I had never drawn in front of people, and I'd learned all this stuff on my own from books and videos and whatnot, but I had never actually drawn live. So it was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? I'm so shy. And I've been drawn before. I loved getting drawn as a kid at Disneyland. I always remember it. But in this industry, you can't, if I were just to sit and draw people and not say anything, I think people would think I was kind of a jerk, or just like, I don't know.
Creepy.
The guy did the cool drawing, but man, didn't say anything.
It's a silent person.
So what I did is I love movies, and I love reading, I love comics and all this stuff. So in my head, I kind of created a character that was kind of chatty and would talk up people and all this stuff. And I kind of became that guy. It just was an organic thing. I didn't read up any psychology. I had to figure out how to get over this hump because my back was against the wall financially. It's like, you have to do this because you need to pay bills. And I had nothing else going for me at that time. So it's like, how do I make this work? Okay, let's create this guy. And I became that guy, sort of. So
welcome to Beats Working, Winning the Game of Events, where we share stories and strategies to turn any event or life moment into something unforgettable.
Events are wild, and the people who work in them are some of the most resilient humans on Earth. If you know, you know.
So come with us behind the curtain for a look at their most memorable experiences.
As they say, the show must go on, so let's get on with the show. Welcome to Beats Working, Winning the Game of Events. Today we are so excited to welcome one of our very favorite event partners. We've worked with him for years, Lou Medina. He is the talent behind Drawing Crowds and Drawing Crowds Digital. Oh, and he's got Gunther with him. Gunther's his sweet little pup, just making a little appearance there. Lou is a caricature artist with a sharp eye and a light hand, known for creating fast and fun sketches that really celebrate the best in people. I'm telling you, the things he can do with a Crayola fat marker, these caricatures are not like the goofy caricatures that you might get, like, I don't know, on the waterfront, in a street fair or something.
Times Square.
Yeah. No, you look so good in them. It's like a photo booth caricature. I mean, I love them. I saved everyone that he's ever given me. And, he brings this really unique blend of art and entertainment to private events and major brands. So he's worked with Starbucks, Microsoft, Nintendo, Brotherton Cadillac, who I just was working with a few weeks ago. And I got to see Lou then. So twice in 2 weeks. How lucky am I?
How lucky am I?
This is so much fun. I get to sit here with Libby Lou. It's like
Libby
a blend
Lou.
of the blend of both of you, Libby Lou. And we have been working with you, Lou, for over 15 years, I think.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. Can we start there? Can we start how Lou and I met? How do you guys feel
How
about
did
that?
you guys meet? I don't know if I know that.
You don't know that story? I know the story. Let's see if Lou remembers. So I had somehow finagled my way into Comcast, used to do these big annual parties for all their vendors. Right. And they were really elaborate. They would fly in a lot of talent from different shows that they were promoting. They would have really cool experiences, like a caricature artist, for example. And I had gone to one of these events like way back in the day when I did some work with an advertising agency out of Olympia. So I knew how fun they could be. And so now fast forward to I'm working in Seattle, and it was when we were at the magazine, Libby, and I really wanted to go to this event, but like we weren't a client, we weren't a vendor, so we were not going to get on the list. And I kind of pride myself on being able to get on any list that I want to get on, right?
VIP, baby.
That's
VIP
right.
That's right. None.
Trying to be the Kevin Bacon of Seattle, you guys. Kevin Bacon of Seattle. So I got my way in. I think I got my way in through an agency that put me on their list. And so I got my way in and we were there. We were checking everything out. It was up at the Newcastle Golf Course on the east side of Seattle. It was summer, I think. I want to say August. It was warm, but not hot. It was beautiful. And Lou, I think you were working the booth that was like representing Nickelodeon, which would make sense. And you were doing your amazing caricature art. And I ran over. I don't even know that I got one that night, but I was so excited. I was like, I have to have your card. We do, because Libby and I were doing so many events. We were doing, I don't even know how many events a year of all different kinds, all different sizes, all different types. And I was like, we're gonna use you like all the time. And so that's how I met Lou.
Yeah, and it's been a great relationship. Yeah.
Isn't it a good meet cute? I love a good event meet cute.
So Lou, you have been at so many events. Like I said, you do private, you do corporate or private corporate, like the one that Elise kind of muscled her way into. What is one element in your planning that is a true must-have for making your event experience unforgettable? And what that could be the experience that you have at an event, or that could be the experience that you're creating for other people.
Well, I think for me and for the event itself, when I'm doing caricatures, it's all about location, location, location. Because I've been to some events where they put me in front of, like this was very early on, and I remember distinctly, it was a bar mitzvah. This guy said, "Oh, you'd be great right here. I'd love to have you here." I'm like, okay. I'm being naive, so I just set up. I was right in front of the speaker, the DJ speaker. Could not hear a thing. My ears were ringing after that night. And then I've been to other events too, where they're like, "Oh, we'd just love to have you back here in the corner." So I learned to. This is a little bit of an aside, but I learned to bring lights with me, because sometimes a venue will not have lights, or like very famously at hotels, the house lights will be on, but then they turn them way down. So again, it's about location where people can see. Usually events are at night. So especially if I have my lighting, make sure people can see me and that they line up in a good way where it's not impeding traffic. So yeah, and it becomes a better experience for me because I get more people sitting, and becomes a better event for the people because they can see the line, they get to enjoy the caricature process.
There's always definitely a line when you're there, Lou. Like I've never been at an event where you've been there as one of our vendors and there hasn't been a line. And I just want to speak to, and we're going to put some examples of your work because Libby and I have such an archive. So we're going to show them right here. But what I love about your work, Lou, is, we've all seen caricatures, when we've gone to Times Square or the zoo, a lot of different places. But those, in my experience, I have one experience with my sister. We got them done in Times Square. And this was actually after I'd already worked with you. And I was like, oh, this will be great. I get these all the time. I love them so much. They're so fun to like put on your fridge or your bulletin board or your office. And this one in New York Times, like they drew two women that looked identically the same, and neither one of them looked at all like my sister or myself. And so I think what your real talent is you are really able to like at least zone in on one feature that really makes that person unique. And also you do it in a flattering way. And so it's just like, it's a double win. That's my experience with working with you, is like, it's just such a flattering and fun experience that you really do. You want to hold on to it, and a memory is made.
Thank you. Yeah. So one thing I do tell clients is that, just as you said, I create memories more than anything else. So that, especially with weddings, because there's so many party favors that are edible, or people just throw them away or eat them, when they get home. But the caricature, you can get one and look at it like 10 years later and remember that party or that wedding or whatever event it was. It's like, man, that was such a fun night. So it becomes bigger than me. It's not just about me. It's just about the experience and giving people memories. And also to speak to your assessment of my drawing, I really appreciate it. But when I actually started doing profiles when I very, very beginning. And that was, you don't even see that done anymore. Or
No,
very
you don't.
rarely. It used to be done at Disneyland, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's where I started. And then I decided to start doing front faces. And that was a struggle. I guess what's happened to me is as I looked around, seeing what other people are doing and decided I want to create kind of my own style. So I started studying animation design or character design for animation. And so I apply some of those principles to my caricatures. So when I look at someone, what I look at are like, I try to break somebody's face down in very basic shapes. Like however basic I see it, I try to make it even a little bit more basic when I draw it. So it just works with shapes, angles, and distance. So even if you think of eyes real quick, so eyes could be like almond shape, right? Or whatever. They could be close together, further apart, or up or down. They could be a little bit like that. So it works the same way with the rest of the face. Everything else kind of balances out, that way. But I basically simplify. I call it SAD, shape, angle, and distance is my method of drawing.
Oh, sad, Lou.
but in a good way,
It's a good sad.
Yeah.
How did you decide that a black Crayola marker, which is like, I love Crayola markers. I might go play with some this afternoon. Like, I love to color.
I don't know
How did you decide that was like your pen of choice? And is it still your pen of choice?
It is. I used to use some really expensive brush pens, and I tried all kinds of like really high-end pens. And there's two things. One is the expense, and two is that I'm kind of rough on pens. So I was like really tearing up pens. And it's like, gosh, this is really, really expensive. So I started looking around and found through experimentation and seeing what other people were using, the Crayola bullet. I don't have one right in front of me, but a bullet tip marker, because it gives me a nice thin or thick line, good variance, and the ink is really good. They're really easy to get a hold of. So yeah, and they're very durable. They're made for a 5-year-old, so they're made to take a beating. So yeah, I beat the heck out of my pens, and these things can really, really take a beating and keep on ticking.
And they'll wash out of your clothes and your hands.
Oh, yeah.
They wash out. And I actually think they do another purpose beyond that as the experience. At least for me, I'm going to identify as a Gen X woman. I see Crayola and I am nostalgic. I think about my childhood, which I had a good one. I think about coloring and art, which makes me happy. And so when you see the Crayola brand, like you immediately think fun and playful, because they've done a really good job with their branding over the decades and decades and decades. So I feel like that's part of your experience too.
That's a great point. I'd never thought about that. There's a very positive, nostalgic, playful, I don't know if you say tone to Crayola or memories that are evocative when you see Crayola.
What's your favorite age? Speaking of the young ones, what's your favorite age of person to draw? Or maybe just your favorite type of person? Maybe they could be young or old, but like who's your ideal caricature model?
I don't really have one because I approach every face the same way. It used to be actually when I first started doing front faces, I was very kind of scared or very timid of drawing women. Just because I love women. I think women are so beautiful and all shapes and sizes and everything. And I don't know. I just used to have such a fear of drawing women, just because I didn't want to offend them, or and I didn't want it to go south on me. So I guess this isn't really answering your question. I don't really have a favorite subject or favorite age or anything to draw. I just love drawing people in general. I'll tell you what I do love doing. This is a bad way of saying it, but I like playing mind games, but I mean it. I'll explain it. I mean it in a different way. Yeah.
Yeah, just
exactly.
like a happy sad. It's a happy
You
mind
can
game.
maybe you can libify this for me, but what started happening is I would draw everybody from like someone who works at Microsoft to construction workers to plastic surgeons. And so in my head, it was always, how can I connect with people, you know? And so the mind game I play with myself is I always talk to people and try to find a connection with them of some sort. Like the other day I was drawing a police officer and he had this love of comic books. And it's like, wow, you know, who'd have thought? Or I found, you know, connections with doctors who like animated films or, you know, this, that, or the other. And it's just a really neat way for me to connect with people on all levels. It doesn't matter, you know, what age or what demographic or where they live or anything like that. It's just really neat to see that we're all connected in some way. You know, we can all find commonalities that we can chat with and have fun talking about, you know?
I
And I've
love
always
that.
found that fascinating.
I love that. I think, and now we talked about the pen. I want to talk about the paper now that you use, because when we started working together, we started, I think, just with blank paper. And I think it had maybe your logo on it, probably put our logo on it. But then over time, as we worked together more and more, we started to get really creative. Like when we worked with automotive dealers, you would draw the car ahead of time and we would put like their brand on the license plate, and then we would print those, and then you would draw people into the car. And so as a salesperson, I would use that as part of my pitch to close a sponsorship. Like, we're not just going to slap your logo on something. We're going to create an experience with your brand and the guest that's memorable and positive, and they're going to go home with this great memento that's going to, you know, that will end up on their fridge or whatever. So then in the future, when they think about your brand, they're going to smile because they're going to tap into that memory. So talk about different types of paper that you've used, and then any ideas like around that maybe bubble up.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've had myself drawn before around the world, actually, and in Vegas and here locally and stuff. And one thing I've found is that a lot of people use like this regular like printer paper, you know, and I've always not liked that because it's so easy to wrinkle or rumple or fold, you know. Especially if people are traveling, do a lot of events, you know, where people come in from across the country. So I started working with or experimenting with thicker paper, and I find out like a 80 pound or 100 up to 110 pound cardstock is super solid, and I just it doesn't wrinkle. You know, you can roll it, but you have to be careful with it, otherwise you know it'll go from roll to fold. But I found that, you know, a thick, nice, heavyweight cardstock just works perfect for me. And not only is it great for me, it's great for the client because you know, they find it easier to take home and doesn't get wrinkled and all that. So I find that that's my solution for paper.
You do choose really good paper. I will agree. It feels luxe and it feels good. Like, I'm a person who also cares about paper. You become that way when you work for a magazine for a decade, and so yeah, you choose great paper.
Oh, thank you. I just started working with a new print shop too recently, and that guy turned me on to even a newer brand of paper I've been really excited about. So it's great.
Let's transition to your digital offerings, because I know that you've also done it so when people get the drawing, they can get like an email or a text picture, so then they can like share it out on their social media. How has that transition been from paper to digital?
Oh gosh, it's a whole different ball of wax, in the sense that when I work digitally, I don't know if you've worked with, this may be a little bit of inside baseball, but if you work with Photoshop, how you work in layers. So when I work digitally, I have to make sure that I put stuff on layers. So I might have like one person here, one person there, or I might have ink here and color down here. So that's been a huge transition, is keeping track of where, you know, everything's at in the drawing. So it takes a lot more thinking when I do digital. But that being said, it is fun. It's just a whole different process. But I draw on an iPad, which I'm actually using right now for this great podcast. And I used to try to do email people stuff, but it was not working. So what I do now is thank goodness for Dropbox, because I create a QR code, and I'll upload the files into a Dropbox folder, and the client can download all those later on. And as far as the technical end goes, I bring my own router along with Apple TV, so I'm able to stream the drawing onto a 32-inch high-def monitor that's raised 7 feet in the air, so people could see it literally
that's
from
great.
across
Yeah, it's
a
great.
gym. Yeah, so people could see it all over the place. And then I print on site too. I do these really nice 4x6 museum quality prints that are very, very, very quality, really nice prints. They're so quality that the printer I use, it's like an iron on. It actually burns the ink into the paper.
Oh wow.
So you could spill water on it, it won't run. So it actually is like a dye. They call it dye sublimation. I don't know if you've gotten
That's
shirts like that or dye
fancy.
sublimated.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah. So it's kind of the same
Dye
process.
sublimated.
Heat
Is
transfer.
that we need to add
Yeah.
that to the event glossary that we're
That's
building.
that's a really cool thing because when I first started doing digital, I used an inkjet printer, and it worked great. But the problem was storage. I remember storing my first printer, and I never thought about this. The ink dried up, and it just ruined the printer. I could not get that thing to work again. So I started
I never would've
researching
thought about that.
printers. Yeah, so these dye sublimation printers, you could I can store it for a year or two or whatever, and pull it out, and it just plugs in and starts printing right away, and they're fantastic.
Do you have a preference between digital and original? I guess we'll call it.
No, just because they're two totally different such a different process that
Sure.
I love both of them. The pen and ink on paper is faster than the digital. That's about it. But really enjoy doing both of them for different reasons.
How long have you been doing this, Lou?
Oh my gosh, I've been doing this, I think, about 30 years now. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm dating
So
myself, but yeah.
Here's the thing. Events are insane. They're tiring. The hours are not typical. It's just kind of a nutty industry. It's so fun, but it is also kind of nuts. So what is it about drawing and events that have really hooked you into this industry for so long? Because 30 years is
That's a commitment.
not an old amount of time, but it's a big amount of time.
Yeah, it's a
So,
big chunk of time.
yeah, why are you still in the game?
Well, I'll start at the beginning. When I started, I never really. It kind of found me in the sense that I moved up here. I was in the Navy, and I was in California, and I moved up here because my brother had moved here. We're both from California originally. So after I got out of the Navy, I moved here, started working, had a regular job, this, that, and the other, and I found myself at one point where I'd lost a job, could not find work. And my brother, who I actually will give you his contact information later, he's a musician. He's a trumpet player. He leads a bunch of different bands. Yeah, he's done a lot of events for corporations. He used to tour with Ray Charles for 2 years.
Oh wow.
He's done all this great stuff. Anyways, long story short, he told me, hey, because I couldn't find work, I was living with him, kind of mooching off him at that time because I had no money. He said, hey, if you could learn caricatures, I could help get you set up. So long story short, I taught myself how to do it in a couple of months, and then he set me up with my first gig, and it just kind of grown from there. So fast forward to now. Now I'm really enjoying doing it because I don't really have to think about it so much as the beginning. In the beginning it was like, is it really that angle? Is it, it was too much. I was too much in my head. Now one of the reasons I also chat with people is not just to find a connection, but also to not think so much about my drawing. So it kind of releases me from being too in my head about it.
You're so good at that because, when you are drawing somebody, both, I can say this as somebody who is drawn or someone who's just standing there watching you, you really have just the most natural, consistent conversation with the people that you're drawing. You are so good at making conversation with people that if you're sitting there, you're kind of like, what's this? Because you can't see it if you're drawing with a marker and paper. you can't see what you're drawing, but you're kind of like, what is this? This guy's just like so chatty. He's just like talking to me the whole time. What's this caricature really going to look like? And, it's such a cool thing to see when you turn it around and you're like, oh,
thank you.
He was chatting with me the whole time about like something not even related to drawing or what my face looks like. Yeah. And he just produced the coolest, memento for me to take home. So,
thank you. When I first got, I remember I did an event in Bellevue. This is my very first gig that my brother helped get me set up with. I remember going there and I was so excited, but when I got there and I was setting up, I almost got sick. I had butterflies in my stomach because at that time I was super shy. I had never drawn in front of people, and I'd learned all this stuff on my own from books and videos and whatnot, but I had never actually drawn live. So it was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? I'm so shy. and I've been drawn before. I love getting drawn as a kid at Disneyland. I always remember it. But in this industry, you can't, if I were just to sit and draw people and not say anything, I think people would think I was kind of a jerk, or just like,
or creepy.
The guy did the cool drawing, but man, didn't say anything.
It's a silent person.
So what I did is I love movies, and I love reading. I love comics, all this stuff. So in my head, I kind of created a character that was kind of chatty and would talk up people and all this stuff. And I kind of became that guy. It just was an organic thing. I didn't read up any psychology. I had to figure out how to get over this hump because my back was against the wall financially. It's like, you have to do this because you need to pay bills. And I had nothing else going for me at that time. So it's like, how do I make this work? Okay, let's create this guy. And I became that guy sort of. So
does he have
that's kind of where that was born from.
Does your alter ego have a name?
Lubo, I guess.
Lubo?
Yeah.
I like it.
Lubo Letter.
You created a good alter ego. You created a very friendly, very fun, like very warm, inviting, just like a great alter ego. So,
thank you.
Good job.
I would never have guessed you were shy ever, ever, ever. Never.
Oh, really? Oh,
No.
That's good. That's good.
No.
My wife, when we first got together, she would ask me, how is it you can go to like a grocery store or something and just start talking with people and they respond to you? I'm like, it's my job, honey. It's for work.
It's just my thing.
Yeah.
It's just my thing. Well, and because we've done so many events together over the years, like I've had the witness on the reveal when you're sitting there talking so naturally about whatever, and you hold it up and they finally get to see it. And the surprise and the delight is always like, I never get tired of saying that because it's so fun. We have a saying at Work P2P that it's not bragging if it's true. So
it ain't bragging.
It ain't
true.
bragging if it's true.
Wow.
Sorry, I was trying to be grammatically correct. My bad.
I know.
It ain't bragging if it's true, Lou. So what is your most memorable event success and why?
Oh, my most memorable event, like single event?
Event, or it could have even been a guest, like a memorable experience with a guest.
Oh, gosh. I have a few, but one of them that just pops to mind. It was an event I did at the Renton Airport. It was for a grad night, and they were flying like people in helicopters that night. So that the event coordinator came up to me and said, "Hey, Lou, we had one of the parents bail on us. He doesn't want to go up in the helicopter, but they need, I don't know why, they needed somebody in there." They said, "Well, do you mind doing it?" I was like, "Yeah, man, I'll totally do that." So I got this really cool helicopter ride at this event, and it was really, really fun. It was super, super memorable. Another one was actually it was this year. I did caricatures for this beautiful Indian wedding, and it was so amazing. Everybody was dressed to the nine. Well, I wouldn't even say dressed. I'd say dressed to the 11. Everyone looked
Forget
beautiful.
the nines.
Yeah, but the groom comes up to me, and he says, "Hey, you are a guest of ours, so we want to make sure you eat. Make sure you eat, okay? Make sure you eat. He kept coming back and saying that. So they bring out this beautiful spread of food, and I go out and grab a plate, you know, and I ate, and it was wonderful food. I loved it. I loved it. So later on, they bring out another spread of food, and the groom comes back to me. He says, hey, did you eat? I want to make sure you're taken care of. Did you eat? I said, yeah, I ate. And he says, you ate before, right? I said, yeah. He says, oh, those were just appetizers. Make sure you get some of this, too. So that was amazing. Just even more amazing food. So yeah, so I've had lots of experiences like that. I've been to private clubs up in the Columbia Tower Club, the Rainier Club, and just, yeah, but those were a couple of experiences I can think of off the top of my head.
That's so cool because you started as a vendor, or as an event partner, and you really, in both of those instances, you really became a guest and, just someone participating in the event, not just, providing a service for them. So that's cool.
That's so fun. That's so fun. What do you do, Lou, when somebody is really shy or timid in the chair? You talked about you being shy, which again, I haven't seen that, but I believe you. But what do you do when somebody, their friend drags them in and is like, they're like, no, I don't want to, but they finally somehow somebody ties them to the chair. What do you do with someone who's really shy or really nervous about being drawn? Because a lot of people don't want to be drawn. They don't want to be photographed. They don't like how they look. That is a common thing that I've seen.
Well, I usually talk about me being shy, or I'll ask them, what do you like to do? Or, it could be reading, or because sometimes people will say, oh, what I like is boring. But I'll ask them, do you like to read? And they're like, yeah, I like to read. What kind of books do you like to read? For usually people who are more shy, I'll try to talk to them maybe a little bit more before, because they may be looking down a lot or looking away, and I like to see them eye to eye. So I try to engage with them just a few seconds more to try to crack that eggshell of shyness. Just to, again, Lubo jumping in to try to find a connection with someone.
Lubo and Libby Lou, you guys,
dynamic duo.
Dun dun dun.
Libby Lubo, how's that?
Libby Lubo. Oh my God, it's getting better and better.
Even better.
Well, Lou, this has been so much fun. We love you. We know we're fans. We're going to put all your contact info in the show notes. But can you tell our listeners, there's a lot of them, where they can find you?
Awesome. I really appreciate it, ladies, and great to see you again. And it was beautiful working with you again, Libby. I really appreciate it, and hope your boys love the drawing.
Oh, they did. They loved it.
Good.
It's on the fridge.
Good. Oh, that's awesome.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Beats Working, where we're winning the game of events. Thanks for listening to Beats Working, Winning the Game of Events, where we explore what it takes to make moments unforgettable.
If you're leaving with a little more inspiration, a little more perspective, and a big side ache from all of the laughing at our funny jokes, then we've done our job.
Beats Working is a Work P2P production. If you've enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platforms.
Your support helps us keep the magic going.